Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, your English coach. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about something that comes up quite often in my client sessions. And that's how to disagree politely with your British colleagues. So let's get started. If you've been working in the UK for some time, you might have noticed that British people can be quite indirect in their communications. They don't always say exactly what they mean. Now, this doesn't happen in all situations and not with all people. It might depend on the relationship that you have with that person. But we do tend to use indirect language in order to maintain relationships, even if it's just on a surface level. We might use it when we want to get someone to do something that is inconvenient for them. I have another video about that, which I will link below. We also use indirect language really to stop the other person from feeling embarrassed or challenged. For example, when giving negative feedback or disagreeing with their opinion. Now, it does depend on the relationship that you have with that person and the culture of your company. In some companies, it's very welcome to say your opinion directly. And once you're deeper into a discussion, going back and forth, disagreeing directly is okay. However, if somebody has an idea and you simply say, I disagree, no, that's wrong, it can sound quite rude and confrontational in the UK. And maintaining those relationships, even on a surface level, is quite important in British culture. Okay, let's look at an example of this problem. Imagine you've been working on a new project and your manager wants to launch it next week. You want to disagree because you know that there's still a lot of work to be done and you want it to be really good before you launch it. So you know you need more time. You might say, no, we don't have time for that. You're being direct. You're telling your manager what you think. However, your British manager might be a little taken aback that you were so direct to disagree with him, especially because he's in a senior position. You notice this, so in the future you stay quiet, you don't share your ideas, even if you know your disagreement is important for the company as a whole. Well, here is the solution. I'm going to give you a formula, like a structure of how you can disagree politely. This is the CARE formula. It has 4 steps. This CARE formula is going to help you disagree more politely with your colleagues and with your clients and ultimately build better connections and relationships. Let's go through each part. So part number 1 is C, credit their point. This is the first step and I would argue it's the most important. Credit what they said. You want to show them that you're listening and that you value their contribution. No matter what you're disagreeing about, whether it's a work discussion or a discussion with a friend about politics, acknowledging their point is key. Now, useful phrases you could use for crediting their point. You could say, that's one option we could use. I see where you're coming from. That could work. Notice with all of these phrases, there's a natural feeling of but. That's one option. But I see where you're coming from. But. Now you don't actually have to say the but. We're indicating we've listened to their point. There's know that a opposite point is coming. Step 2, A, is for add a softener. So this is where you disagree, but we can disagree in a softer way. We don't want to say, no, you're wrong, or actually, that's not right. If they're in a slightly more senior role, this is when more softening language is used. For example, my only hesitation is, I'm slightly concerned that we won't have enough time. Step 3 is to give a reason why you disagree. We want evidence. We need to back up your disagreement with a solid reason. And this is where you explain why you're concerned or why you disagree. Because, give your reason. And finally, step 4 is to explore alternatives. And we can do this by using a question because it sounds more collaborative, like you're trying to work together to solve the problem rather than just disagreeing and saying what you think you should do. Useful phrases for explaining alternatives are, could we consider, what if we, shall we, perhaps we could. Saying this as a question is more polite because it sounds like you're asking permission rather than telling them what to do. And it also feels more collaborative, like you're working as a team, you're building that connection. Let's look at some examples, starting with the example that I talked about earlier. Here's what not to do. Let's roll out the project next week. No, we can't do that, it's too soon. This is very direct, especially if that was your manager and you just say, no, it's too soon. Even if you strongly believe it, it feels quite confrontational. Instead, you could say, that's one option, but I'm a little concerned about launching it so soon. We still need some time to make some checks and to ensure it's the best quality. Could we consider the following week? That's a good point. What does everyone else think? As you can see, in the care disagreement, there are many more words. However, it's less direct and abrupt, and you sound more collaborative, like you're working as a team. Here's another example. This should only take 2 weeks to build. Actually, no, it will take more like a month. I don't think your manager would be happy if you responded like that. It sounds especially rude when you use the word actually at the beginning of the sentence. Sometimes if you translate from other languages, actually means in reality, right? But if you use actually at the beginning of a sentence in English, it sounds like you're correcting them and it can feel quite confrontational. So avoid actually at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, let's look at the care disagreement. I see where you're coming from, but in my experience, 2 weeks is optimistic. We might be looking at 3 weeks or even 4, especially to ensure we test it properly. Should we break down the tasks so we can get a clearer estimate? As you can see, that's a lot longer, but a lot more polite and collaborative. Now, do you notice the pattern with all the examples? Credit their point, add a softener, give a reason, explore alternatives. The care disagreement. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Sarah, that's a lot of words to say. I disagree is a lot easier. I don't want to have to worry about making more mistakes. And yes, I understand your concern, but I'm going to disagree with you. See how I acknowledged your concern? Once you practice this formula over and over again, it will feel more natural. And it's going to make a big difference to how you connect with your colleagues and how you're perceived by your team members and senior management. It's important to be seen as a team player. Now, remember, if you've grown up in a country where you're very direct with your communications, that's just normal. Communicating in this indirect way can feel kind of fake at first, but that's not people's intention. The idea is to make this disagreement feel less confrontational and more collaborative. I'm not saying it's any better or any worse, it's just a very common way of communicating in the UK. Less confrontation and more teamwork is really valued in UK workplace culture. So this week I want you to try out the care formula for disagreeing politely. And notice how different the reaction is when you acknowledge their point and soften your disagreement. If you want more tips on navigating British workplace culture, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're looking for personalised one-to-one coaching to help you build that confidence to really progress in your career, check out my website in the description where you can book a free trial session. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.